So today's video is going to start with a story. Sometime early on in my HR career, I was in a meeting with other HR practitioners in my organization. And the HR director was saying, oh, for anybody that is not performing well, please just sack them. For everybody that is there, we have 5 people that are willing to take their jobs and at cheaper rates. So sack them, And if you've worked in Nigeria, you would have either heard directly spoken to you or gotten the perception that you were very dispensable in your role and that anybody would come and take your job. People were lined up waiting to take your job at cheaper rates. So today I want to talk about the labor market saturation, the deception it does give, and the actual reality. Hi, my name is Mercy and I unpack HR research and I simply explain to you why your organization behaves the way it does, or how HR systems are designed and how organizational systems are built. So today I want to talk about labor market saturation in Nigeria. As it stands, about 90 million people are currently in the workforce, the labor workforce. What that means is that there are a lot of people that are able to work. At the same time, there's something that we seem to kind of forget. 93% of those 90 million people are in the informal sector. The informal sector, I've spoken about it in another video, is the sector that manages content creators, people that are not 9-to-5ers. So your boat drivers, the drivers on the road, the content creators, the market women in the markets. They take 93% of the labor workforce. And what that does to the 9-to-5ers or the formal sector is that organizations have limited hiring scope. What that means is that the people that they can hire now has been reduced by 93%. Now, it gets more interesting. Some time ago, I was doing a research and I found that obviously there's something called a skills mismatch. I don't know if you've heard about it, but I'll just explain it briefly for those that haven't heard about it. Because of the kind of educational system we have, many young graduates that come out of school are not equipped with the skills that are required for the current jobs that we have, to be able to do the jobs we have. So yes, you go to school and you actually learn something, but the tools that we use, so for example, data analytics and the tools that we use, SPSS, Excel, or even let's use the Microsoft Office package, which is like the most transferable tool. So you can use Microsoft Office in any department, in any sector, any department of the organization. You use Microsoft package. So Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, your meetings, Teams. So you use all these tools, right? But you are not taught them in school. Yeah. So because you are taught some things in school, obviously, but to actually do the work, you are not taught the things that we require to do the work, the skills that you need to learn to do the work in the job market are not gained in school. There's some sort of skills mismatch. So for the 7% people in the formal sector, they are still struggling with skills mismatch. So every time you hear that the labor market is saturated, you also hear that people are not doing well in their jobs. Why is that possible? If the labor market is so saturated, go online today and look at customer care roles. There are jobs everywhere. And you know why? What that signals to? That signals to the fact that people keep recruiting. So for example, an organization will recruit one role 3 times a year because the person that comes into the role either doesn't perform well and has to leave, or just leaves because they are maybe not paid well. So it signals to the fact that as much as there's labor market saturation in Nigeria, we still have a very strong scarcity of skills. So what does that mean to an employer? No, you can't just hire people. There's not just 5 people waiting to take over somebody's job because skills are valuable. And now, what makes it more interesting is that imagine as an employer, you hire somebody into a role. You train this person for 4 months, and after investing in that person and training that person, maybe because the person you don't feel like the person has performed well, or even maybe the person is performing well, the person asks for a higher salary, and then you feel like, oh, you are dispensable, and you say, get out, I am going to hire 5 more people. Guess what? You're going to now train the next 5 people for the same role and make them more employable to other organizations that will pay higher salaries. That's what this means for the employer. I keep saying this thing. You see the thing where you can hire some people very affordably. I don't know if the word affordable has a different meaning. Very cheaply. And some people seem more expensive or more costly to hire. It signals to value. It does signal to value. So what the person that I'm going to have to do another video for skills mismatch, right? But long story short, what I'm trying to say is that for every employer, there is a false perspective that you have plenty of skill in the market to hire. No, you do not. And yes, you are hiring people, but you are not hiring them for themselves. You're hiring them for the skills that they bring to your organization. So obviously, it's the skills you're hiring. Now, for the employee, what does that mean? Two things for two types of employee. If you're an employee in Nigeria that does well, that performs well, I would appreciate if you can begin to recognize your value. We seem to sometimes forget what we are worth sometimes, because I've been in positions where I feel like something I know is not such a big deal. But when I go into other spaces and I talk about it and they're like, oh wow, this is new for me, or this is new to me. And then it occurs to me that I don't actually realize how much I am worth. And partly, one of the reasons why that happens in Nigeria is because we don't have labor market data available. So in the US, for example, I've said this in another of my video. If you go to the what's theirs called, Bureau of Labor Statistics website, right? US Bureau of Statistics website, you can check what an accountant earns in New York or in Texas. So you can actually know with the number of years of experience and everything. So you can actually know your actual market value, how much you should be paid. In Nigeria, it's not so. So because it's not easy for us to get, if you want to say you want to use adverts and the amount they put in adverts, you will see a very wide range that signals to a couple of problems. So because it's not the same way in Nigeria, you may not actually know your real value or what you're worth, really. Now, that is for the employee that is an overperformer. The employee that is an underperformer, what this means for you is that you're going to always earn low. Now, let me explain what that means. When somebody underperforms, the person is not gaining the skills that is required for the ever-changing labor market. I was doing a recent event for young graduates, and when I was preparing to do my presentation, I found that 50% of the roles that will be valuable in the next 4-5 years do not exist now. So for example, in HR now we have performance management, so you can have a performance manager. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we didn't have it. It was one HR manager that did everything. But because the world is evolving, the way work is done is also evolving. The generation that is coming into the labor force is evolving. There are some skills that you need to get to be able to remain relevant. So please upskill, pay for that course. I don't know why people struggle. I pay for World at Work courses in dollars. Pay for that course. You would set yourself so much apart from every other person. Pay for that certification. Upskill, attend seminars. I attend random seminars. Thank God I'm a member of World at Work. So we have seminars. I'm also a member of CIPM. I attend seminars, pay for those skills, upskill, because everything is evolving. Upskill so that you can continue to remain relevant and that you can continue to grow financially, like begin to earn better. Anyways, the long and short of this video, what I'm trying to say is that the labor market signals wrongly. If you assume that because the labor market is saturated as an employer and so you don't have to pay so much for a role, you will keep hiring the value you pay for that role. And because they would not provide value, you will have to keep hiring, thereby losing money through vacancies, through vacancy gaps. So for example, if a job is vacant for 2 months, there's a cost there's a cost applied to the organization. You would pay for it through that. You pay for it through hiring costs. You pay for it through minimal or poor performance. So that is what that does for the employer. For an employee, if you are performing well, please know your value. If you're currently upskilling, please know your value. If you're not, please upskill. If you enjoyed everything I said, if you enjoyed this video, please like, this video. Please tell me what you think. Make your comments in the comment section and subscribe to my YouTube channel, because this is all I do, talk about HR research in simple language or in simple ways that you can understand. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.